Before we dive into the video, a quick word from our sponsor, TradeStation. As tape readers, we rely heavily on TradeStation for their time and sales. TradeStation offers ATC students an account representative, zero commission, and a cash reward with qualifying deposits. Now back to the video. Hello and welcome everyone. This is going to be an interview of Vinny. So this is going to be an interview style of, just breaking down where Vinny came from with his momentum trading and now where he's at with tape reading with the head of the charts. So a little introduction of who I am. My name is David. I am an assistant teacher with Ahead of the Charts. What we do is we tape read and we follow smart money. So it's my pleasure to introduce Vinny. How you doing, Vinny?
Doing well, David. How are you?
It's a pleasure to have you on, and thank you for coming on the weekend as well. Appreciate that.
It's still a Super Bowl Sunday, right?
Yeah, Super Bowl Sunday, and we're doing an interview over here, so the grind never stops, right?
Love it. Love it.
So Vinny, give us a little bit of background of, before you got into trading, what you did for a career.
So, I worked at the world headquarters of JP Morgan Chase in New York City. And I was a private banker there. I did nothing involving trading. My job was more to grow the assets of my book of business. So I would manage the wealth for clients, but I wouldn't be the one investing their money. We had other teams that we would really flow that through. So my job was to really more so manage the relationship. So I really didn't do much trading at all there, but I had then left my job because I was doing a lot of real estate at the time, and that was about 3-4 years ago now, and that's when I got into trading kind of right away after I left my job.
And that pandemic gave you the opportunity as well to trade full time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of those things where I might never get the opportunity to spend this much time on it ever again. So I just wanted to hop right into it and kind of just start wherever I had to and just really get the ball rolling.
And you went full dive into warrior trading, right?
I did. That's exactly where I started. I started with momentum trading.
So when it came to momentum trading, because I know you have an Instagram, so you have a previous trading Instagram of your results and what you talked about with momentum trading. You had a series of just a period where it was just phenomenal. And it looked like it was working every single day. And when I look back at your Instagram, I'm like, why would you ever change what you were doing? Because it was obviously profitable. And you found success in that. So what changed in that aspect?
So it's a great question. So you tend to learn very quickly that as market conditions change, your expectations of the trades that you're taking really changes a lot with it. And momentum style trading is just not the best in all market conditions. So I did have a great run with it. I was doing well with it, but it was one of those things. If I could put up those types of numbers with trying to scalp a move, a $1 move, I'm getting 30-40 cents out of it, and I'm doing well with that. Imagine what I could do if I had more of a foundation understanding the basis for that move. So that's really why I kind of shifted my focus there.
So highlight some of your experience with warrior trading, because obviously it's a huge company. It's everywhere on social media. It has a massive following. There's a lot of live trading going on. How was your experience with just warrior trading in general? Like, how was the chat room? Was there a personal touch? Were the courses live? Like, just give us a little idea of what that looked like for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So every day, what we would do is we would tune into to watch Ross live trade, and he would essentially have the pre-market on his YouTube. But then once the market opened, that would really just be reserved for the Warrior Pro students, as they were called. And we would watch him live trade all day, which was interesting. But when it came to the chat room, at any given time, there's 5,000 people in it, trying to put their input into it. So I wouldn't call it the most personal experience in the world. And, to be fair, at the time, I don't know how good my call outs were for him to really pay attention to me. But, it was definitely interesting to watch how he watch his approach all day.
Gotcha. And with that momentum trading, were you guys following his trades? Like, I mean, if it's live and you're just watching him live, I feel like it's super easy to not have your own thought process and just follow what he's doing, right? If he has a track record.
So in the beginning, I learned very quickly that I cannot follow and have
Mm,
success. I feel like that was one of the quicker lessons I
yeah.
learned. So, at any given point, if he took a trade, really changed my thought today. In fact, there were a lot of trades that he would take that I just wouldn't, because with the amount of share size he could take, he could have a great trade making 7 cents.
Mm,
And I couldn't necessarily do that at the time.
right. So if someone out there is, they're on the internet, on YouTube, they're looking up, should I go into warrior trading? Just looking up reviews, because I know there's plenty of reviews out there. Not that I've dove into them or anything. What advice would you give to someone who was looking into get into momentum trading from your perspective now that you have?
Sure. So it's a very interesting question.
Yeah,
Momentum trading, first, I want to dive into what momentum trading is. I just want to
absolutely.
define it very quickly. So, momentum trading is buying high and selling higher when a stock is breaking out.
Mm,
So, the difference really is I didn't have a really true understanding of what the overall price target was for the market maker. So when I first started with Warrior Trading, I have not much of a foundation for stock trading at that point, but all my trades are based on feel. So that was really the most difficult part for me, because I'm like, yesterday this same type of setup went $1.25 and today it goes 75 cents. I'm adding in the same spots, but then I'm getting caught expecting the same move. So, I really started right off the bat trying to trade based on feel.
mhm,
And, we've spoken about this multiple times where that just wasn't sustainable.
right.
You could do well with it, but, and I'll never forget, I actually had a whiteboard when I first started. My brother
Mhm,
brought this up the other day. And I had a whiteboard of how I could do very well taking 14-cent trades, you know? Um, but then all of a sudden you understand that, that 14-cent trade moves a lot differently in different market conditions. And if it bars against you in a different type of market condition, then it could wipe out your last 4 or 5 trades with your last trade of the day. And that was really one of the big differences. A lot of the times when Ross would be done for the day and when I would be done for the day, it's because we lost on the last couple of trades that we took.
mm.
And that's how we kind of knew we were done. We didn't really have a sense of what the overall move was going to look like before it happened. So, there were a lot of stab type trades that we would take, you know?
Yeah, so I mean, and that's tough. Trading on feel when you haven't even necessarily earned it at that stage in your career. That can be difficult. I can see how that can be a tough road to navigate. Really
Yeah.
trading that feel and that momentum. Just I mean, definition itself kind of scares me with our background. Buying high and selling higher, that can really lead to some big losses if you don't know exactly who you're following. So kind of transitioning into where you're at now. Obviously you're trading with ATC full time. You came to on-site events. You've been, taking classes. You've been studying under Rich, which is our head instructor. You've been really diving into tape reading, following smart money and the market makers. So how has your transition been from your mindset and also in your trading as well?
So my expectation every day has completely changed for what my day is going to look like. When I initially started with ATC, I was really trying to make my momentum trades better,
Mhm.
to be completely honest. And then I saw a lot of the other setups. And once I got a better understanding of the percentage of those setups, it really changed my focus from having anywhere from, and no joke, 40 to 50 executions on a momentum trade, to maybe really just picking my spots and taking 2 or 3 trades a day and just waiting for the best setups. And what I have found is it's much less stressful to just wait and pick your spot instead of trying to trade everything. So I'm much more selective now after understanding how to read the tape the way we do. Um, and that's really transformed what my expectation is every day. I mean, it looks completely separate. It's completely different.
Yeah, and that comes from being a great follower, right? Because that's the foundation of the ATC methodology is following the controlling market maker, and everything that we see is interpreted through their eyes. And and we interpret how much money they need to make on their position. We interpret if they're building, if they're not building, and it really gives us a great foundation for what highest percentage trade within the stock can be. So my kind of question with you, with how your transition is, how have you had to unlearn those habits of momentum trading and then just toning into, tape reading, trusting the market maker who you're following, right? Because I think momentum trading is so much more based upon your entry, your position, how far I got away, and then just managing yourself. But when it comes to tape reading, it's who you're following, what they're doing, what they need to show to release into their money time, what is their price target, etc.
Yeah, so the way I manage my trades is completely different, as I said.
Hmm.
So I went from programming my keyboard and having hotkeys
Hmm.
where I could just hit a button and I'm in a trade and take profit with another key. I have actually found that when I'm expecting a trigger and I have to think about where to set my limit price, that just sets a completely separate tone for
Mm.
my trade management at that point, because I'm almost prepared to make it a field trade when I'm trying to enter a trade with a hotkey. So now when we're anticipating money time, I'm thinking I have to do so much more thinking around where am I going to set my limit to get into the trade, that it really takes a lot of the feel out of it, because at the end of the day, if that doesn't happen, then I'm not going to get into the trade. I'm not going to take a stab just because we see some upward movement.
Hmm. Yeah. So your approach has vastly changed then. The way, I
Yeah,
mean, that's just recent too, because I remember just last month you were hawking into trades. So that's definitely just
I
a recent
was.
transition, right?
I was, and
Yeah.
I had gotten a lot better with the hotkeys, but it takes away a lot of the feel, and that's what I had to do. I had to realize that I almost had to retire as a trader and become a follower for
Wow.
me to really make it work. And that was kind of like a hard thing for me to admit to myself. I myself, if there's somebody having success with momentum trading, then I can do it too. But then why would I sacrifice making the entire move to be the best momentum trader? And I think that's really where a lot of the transformation in my trading has really come from.
Gotcha. Not nice. Well, with the two different schools, because also ATC is tape reading, they're two completely different methodologies. So what outside of the methodologies themselves have you noticed, what's the difference between the two besides, methodology itself?
What do you mean?
Like in terms of just the classes, the chat room, just the overall community in general as a learning experience outside of just the two methodologies.
Oh man, it's not close. It to get for me to think about a question that I have, right? And I put a lot of thought into,
Hmm.
sometimes too much thought into some of the questions that I asked early on. But when I put a lot of thought into a question and I get a very sincere answer on the other end of it, it just means so much more. It means so much more than trying to find the answer myself in a video from a lesson, trying to see who's asked the same question. Um, that just kind of hits different.
Yeah.
And it really allows me to not make the same mistake tomorrow, especially when we have our nightly sessions and Rich hops in or you give your insight, to be able to compare and contrast real time what happened that day. That's really made my trading growth really rapid and my progress really rapid.
Fair enough. And also, we have that trader exchange on Tuesdays, which are live market lessons. And there's, without a doubt, you sending a question in every single week. And those questions have definitely progressed. You can tell just from the initial questions you asked when you first joined ATC, a lot of momentum mindset to the questions you ask now. And it's all about following the market makers and truly understanding them even better. So, yeah, I can see that just the more personal touch and being able to get your questions answered and just the fact that the veterans have been through it, I've been through it. I just feel like there's so many people within this community that have, asked the same questions that you have. So the answers can come from a variety of different sources. So
Yeah, and that gives a lot of confidence too,
yeah.
to know that there's somebody that's having, a massive amount of success with it, and they were probably at the same step you were at some point,
Mhm.
that's just very reassuring. And it's very easy to not get down on yourself when things don't go your way, when you know that it's literally just part of the process.
Yeah. And for those out there that have not seen the first podcast that I had with Vinny, it's on the YouTube channel and it's called like Momentum Trader Turned Tape Reader. And that was probably a month or two ago, probably a couple months ago at this point.
Mm.
But how and how's your progression changed since then? Like your thought process, the way you're trading, has it been like a 9 day difference for you? Is there certain things that you can highlight and look back to and from that point? Because I even remember in that podcast interview we were talking about we're going to look back at this and we're going to laugh and you're going to see how much you have come. So kind of just reflecting back on that, like is there certain things, lessons, obstacles that have really transitioned for you?
Yeah, so I was really looking at a lot of the setups that we take way too much through the lens of where can I take this long?
Mm-hmm.
Um, just the other day, for example, we had a stock come down, hit 52 bids, right? AFRM. And right there, I would be trying to get into the long and maybe get shaken out a couple times. But where my approach changed, instead of trying to get some of that quick move on the way up, I just let it go and I just let the short setup because I knew that was the higher percentage setup. I knew that was a setup where I wouldn't have to manage the stock every 5 minutes. I could just let it. I knew it was going to take a little bit longer to go where it needs to go, and that type of trade is not only more profitable, but it's way less stressful.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm avoiding a lot of the shakeouts that I would typically have at that point, because I've completely shifted the lens that I'm looking at it through versus where could I take this long to where does this have to go? Because that's the market maker's game plan. I think that's been the biggest change.
And I'd be interested to see like in your journals the transition for your hold time on average, if that's changed, right?
A
Because
lot.
obviously, if you're following the market maker and you have the confidence that he needs to make money in his position, you're more willing to go through those little price action swings. So I'd be interested to see, what your hold time is, and I can almost bet you that it's definitely increased quite a bit
Yeah, if we take a $5 trade, the most I'd be able to make on it is 50 cents to a dollar and a dollar if I'm lucky.
with momentum, right?
Well, with any trade that I'm taking,
Okay.
for example, the other day, if I took that short, I would have clipped it, up 50 cents to a dollar versus, understanding that it may be noon, it may be lunchtime before it even hits our price target.
Mm,
So
gotcha.
the hold times for me, even on the longs, on the momentum side of things, I'm so much less in and out of trades versus I have my entry on the trigger.
Mhm.
I know what the overall price target is. And there's really not much for me to do unless we get any brand new information that tells us it's not exactly going to do what I thought it was going to do. Unless
Mhm.
that happens, I'm not touching it.
Yeah, and how often does that truly happen? I would say it's more rare that you get information that completely changes the game plan.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
It's actually very rare, and it's much more rare than I anticipated when I first started. I was almost looking too hard for information that would
Uh-huh.
change the game plan versus letting them show it to me.
That's fair. Well, Vinny, I think that answers a lot of questions for those who are seeking in, momentum trading or they're looking at a new methodology, maybe possibly tape reading with us. So I think that gives some insight into those searching and seeking. I definitely wanted to keep it a little shorter this time because I know, nobody wants to watch an hour comparison video. It's just not the reality nowadays. People's attentions are very minimal, but I just wanted to personally thank you for taking the time to really just, highlight the comparison of your journey because I know um, it's difficult to reflect on where you came from and that instance of momentum to now. It's a lot. It's so vastly different. So I
Yeah, it
appreciate
is.
you coming on and definitely give us that highlight insight.
Yeah, anytime, man. It was my pleasure.
Appreciate it, Vinny. Have a good one.
You too, brother.